Hydro is the strongest element in the game, and it's arguably a necessity to have at least one 5-star Hydro on your account. So that begs the question, which one is right to get? If not, should you try and go for more? But to make matters much more complicated, right before Hoyoverse releases the Hydro Archon herself and her right-hand Chief of Justice Nouvelette as brand new 5-star Hydro characters, most likely, they are releasing nearly every single Hydro character that they've made as a 5-star rerun, right before we can even see what the new characters do. So this leaves free-to-plays and low spenders with a very difficult choice. Should you spend your hard-earned primos on a guaranteed character that we already know and love, or should you wait and see if there is something better in store? Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The total limited 5-star Hydros that we have are Child, Kokomi, Ayato, and Yelan, and 3 of them are rerunning within the same 2 patches, and it's very possible that either Nouvelette or Folklores run in the next patch or 2 after that. The only Hydro left out of the party is Ayato, and this can seem very overwhelming if you're new, or even if you've been around for a while and you're just looking for another perspective. Let's start off with each current character and see what kind of teams that you need to be running for, in my opinion, them to be the right pull for your account. Starting with Kokomi. I think Kokomi is the right pull for your account if, number 1, you love Kokomi. That's one option. But if you're looking to pull her for power or synergy reasons, I think that the main reason you want to pull Kokomi is to complete your Ayaka team. In my opinion, no other Hydro completes Ayaka's best team the way that Kokomi does. The upgrade from the other Hydros that I've tried, granted I have not been able to try Mona yet, but Kokomi is a lot more comfortable and with a lot better Hydro application even than Mona, and is head and shoulders above any other Hydro option that I've tried. So if you love Ayaka, you want to maximize Ayaka, Kokomi is a highly recommended pull, in my opinion. She also makes up my favorite Nilou Bloom team, which is this one. You can also use Kale very well in the last slot. This one is not as strong of a recommendation from me because the difference from non-Kokomi to Kokomi here is not nearly as great as the difference between non-Kokomi and Ayaka team. Nilou also has the option for Barbara Kirara, which is honestly really, really good. For Ayato Baiju, you can also use a triple Hydro comp where you use Nahida on field, and you use Xingqiu as another Hydro, and use Xingqiu Barbara, and you can also use one of my favorites, Yao Yao and Candace. So there are a ton of options for Nilou, and a lot of them feel really, really good. There's even more options than I listed just now. So although Kokomi is the best, because the other options are really strong, unless you're just trying to flesh out your account and free up some Hydros for your other side, she's not a necessity. Now, Kokomi does have a lot of other teams. You can check out my full Kokomi guide if you want to. There'll be a link to that in the pinned comments where I go through every single team that you can run her through, and she is very good in a lot of those teams, and she's very flexible being a Hydro character. All of those teams are very, very good. However, one of the other Hydros on this list does those other teams better. So again, if you love Kokomi, she's a very flexible unit for you. And if you have one of these 2 teams, especially Ayaka, she might be the right pull. So when is Yelan the right pull? Well, Hyper Bloom is one. Hyper Bloom is ridiculously strong. The ceiling for Hyper Bloom is most likely this team if your Alhaitham is well invested. I've also seen calcs that this is the ceiling for Hyper Bloom. Both of them are extremely, extremely good. And if your Xingqiu is contested or your Alhaitham is busy, you can also use Fischl right here, or you don't have Alhaitham. Fischl is really, really good in this slot as well. And you can pretty much put a ton of different things in this slot. This also frees up Xingqiu for the other side. And to be honest, this team is my pick for the strongest team in the game, on top of being extremely easy to build. Not with Fischl though, I would say Xingqiu or Alhaitham are the stronger options. But this team is so strong, it's unfair, in my opinion. So going for Yelan makes a lot of sense. You don't need Yelan for this team, however, because just like you can replace Xingqiu on this side, you can replace Yelan with one of those options such as Alhaitham or Fischl. Alhaitham is also part of Sino's best Hyper Bloom team. As we talked about Alhaitham, she also makes the very strong double Hydro core. double hydro is super good for a ton of teams. It makes for really comfy Hu Tao teams, really comfy Yoimiya teams, but it's also really good for making some of your other favorites work. Like if you don't have C6 Faruzan, Wanderer with double hydro can be really good. Ningguang with double hydro and Zhongli in the last slot can be really good. You can do Kokomi double hydro with Kazuha. There's just so many options for double hydro. I've also done Raiden double hydro. I've done Keqing double hydro. Like that I really don't recommend. But the point is, double hydro is a very strong core that will basically meet DPS checks by itself, assuming it's single target, and really gives you a lot of flexibility and choices for your account. Yelan is also a decent choice for a national team, whether with Raiden or someone else. She doesn't get as many vapes for Zhangling as Xingqiu does, but if you're trying to use Xingqiu on the other side, you can interchange the two in the national team and they work interchangeably. And like I said, Yelan has a good synergy with a lot of other characters. You can even use her with Eula or with other characters that may not be optimal choices, but she really increases the team's strength, and she's also really incredible for the overworld. I personally think that Yelan is the strongest 5-star in the game currently, so you obviously can't go wrong going for her. The final hydro on the block is Tartaglia. I don't have him yet, but his best team is by far the national team. It is arguably the strongest AoE team in the game. Some people argue that it's the strongest team overall. It's a really amazing team. It is really hard to play, and it is basically Child's only team. So if you want to go for Child and you want to optimize him, this is basically the only team. A lot of people have problems with it, with the downtime and things like that, especially casual players. So you kind of have to be a bit of a sweaty tryhard to make this team really sing. And again, this is really Child's only team. You can use him in some Burgeon stuff, in some Nilou stuff. You can replace Nahida with Kazuha here if you need Dendro for that abyss. The nice thing though is this team you can basically take it anywhere. It can fight virtually any enemy set in the game, and it's going to work in basically every abyss, and it frees up your Xingqiu to the other side. So if you have Tartaglia, and if you have Tartaglia Xingqiu, then you have one amazing hydro for either side, and that basically covers your requirements. So although he's not as flexible, he frees up Xingqiu, who is flexible. The other character I wanted to talk about, purely because so many people in my live stream chat were asking about this character. Should I get one of those other characters or Zhongli? Should I get Yelan or Zhongli? Should I get Kokomi or Zhongli? Everyone is wondering about Zhongli. In my opinion on Zhongli is very simple. If you want a very comfortable overworld experience with his mining and with his shield, and you have a hard time maybe surviving hard bosses, then Zhongli can be a great choice. For Abyss, if you're running certain characters, namely Mono Geo, Zhao, maybe Hu Tao if you want more comfort, and Yoimiya, then I would say Zhongli is a really good pick. If you're running pretty much any other characters, there's other options that work just as well or better for Zhongli. So whether or not you should get Zhongli or not is very simple. Are you trying to min-max one of those characters or not? Yoimiya mains are probably in the trickiest situation. Also maybe Hu Tao mains who haven't got themselves a copy of Yelan yet. If you don't have a copy of Yelan, I would try and pick up a copy of Yelan. You can do other things for both Yoimiya and Hu Tao, and I think Yelan is the priority pickup for most people. But if you really value that comfort, then I would say it's totally fine to go for Zhongli over Yelan. That's just my recommendation. All right, now I want to speculate a little bit on Focalors and Neuvillette. We really don't know what these two characters are going to do. Even if you look at leaks, you don't really know what these characters are going to do. But I want to preface this by saying just a couple things. Wishing for one of the Hydro characters we have now is guaranteed. You know exactly what you're getting when you wish for a Kokomi, when you wish for a Yelan, when you wish for a Child. You know exactly what you're getting. You know how strong they are. You know what teams they work on. You know if they're going to be a good fit for your account. With these two characters, we don't know. Granted, Archons are almost always a hit. The only one you could argue now is Venti and maybe Zhongli. If you don't run those specific characters or you're not fighting those specific enemies, they're not super universal. And really, Raiden, if you don't want to play her on field, you don't need her. It's only really Nahida that's actually like super universal. Do I think that Focalors is going to be that universal? I don't know. It's possible that she's an off-field AoE hydro applicator, damage dealer, buffer, and she just power creeps the living heck out of everything. I mean, that's very possible. However, it's also possible that she's an on-field hyper carry and Neuvillette's part of her best team. That's very possible. And you want to have Yelan off-field as well to buffer, and you're running a mono hydro with Kazuha and Yelan. I don't know, right? Maybe Kokomi is part of her best team as the healer for a mono hydro team team with Fossilars. I have no idea, right? We just don't know what they're going to do. They could be so universal, or they could just be very, very strong in and of themselves. But going for the characters right now is guaranteed. And that goes hand in hand with the next thing I'm going to say is we don't know when our current 5 stars are going to rerun next. We do know that Genshin really likes to rerun all the new characters within that version update. So Fossilars and Neuvillette, they should rerun at some point during the 4.x patch, but Yelan, she might not rerun till 5.x. Same with Kokomi, same with Child. We have no idea when they'll rerun. So I would say if you're getting one of the currently rerunning characters for one of the teams that they're already part of, that they're already established on, I would go for them. I would not gamble and hope that one of these two is an upgrade. I would not risk that. What if these two are downgrades to other Hydro options? What if they're side grades? Maybe they're upgrades, and then you can save for them on their rerun. That's what I would recommend. But of course, if you love the design of these characters, if you collect Archons, then save for the Archon. If you love the design of Neuvillette, save for him, right? That's not really what I'm talking about. The design, you know, if you love their design or characters or playstyle, then go for that. But from an account safety perspective, if you just want another new fun character, then maybe you do skip the current ones. Some people are also asking, should I get constellations for my Yelan, for my Child, for my Kokomi? I would say no. Don't worry about any constellations for any of those characters. Yelan's is really only good for overworld exploration, and trust me, it is really, really good, but it's not worth skipping out on a whole new character just to get a constellation. If you've decided on constellations, you've probably already decided. You probably decide you don't need these characters anyways, or you're just going to spend anyways. New characters can be strong or weak. Characters that we know are strong, and we know are strong in certain teams, they will almost always stay strong on those teams. They're very, very rarely power crept. I think that these two characters are going to fulfill different niches than we already have. Let me know what your thoughts, let me know who you're going for, and please consider subscribing. We are full-time on the channel now, and it really, really helps me out when you subscribe. You can join the Discord, you can check out the Patreon, but if you don't want to do any of those things, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much, and bye for now.